Welcome back to the Underdog Investor Podcast. Underdog, it's something we pivoted the name recently, if anyone who's listening is catching on, because I just find that there's such an opportunity in the crypto, DeFi, blockchain, alternative investment space for someone who's maybe not an accredited investor to get a bit of a leg up. And I think that opportunity is still here, and I'm really excited for the next few years. Today we got Mahyar Akhbari. Did I get that right? Please tell me I got that right.
You got it right.
Got it right. Co-founder of Untraceable and co-founder of Canada's largest Web3 event, the Blockchain Futurist Conference, which is happening in about just over a month, August 15th, 16th.
Yep.
Fifth year. So you would have started the Futurist Conference in 2019. 2019 would have been an exciting year from maybe that's kind of when we saw 10K in Bitcoin. So there was money pouring into crypto. It was an exciting year. 2020 would have been sort of flat.
Yeah. Let me stop. We started in 2018.
2018K. So you saw way under 4K price for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm referencing Bitcoin as just kind of the North Star here.
Yeah, everything follows it.
Right. 21, things would have went wild. That was the 60K times. So things went wild. 22, we all know what happened. We won't talk about that. 23 has been sort of boring for the most part, and it excited
still up 100%.
Up more than really anything else. We're almost doubled from 15 to 30, 31.
Right.
But you kind of said one thing as we were talking before I hit record was this is the biggest conference you've had yet, and that excites me because behind the scenes of just the price of Bitcoin, there's so much development, there's so many people doing things. So I'm really excited to talk about that and maybe give people a glimpse that money is made in the bear market, and there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And I'm really excited to talk to you because you probably hear a lot of those conversations behind what's talked about on the stages as well. So I think for anyone listening, I think it's important to keep excitement or enthusiasm high as no one else is enthusiastic. And that's why I'm so driven to talk to people building stuff, because it keeps my enthusiasm high when I feel like, nothing is exciting. So I'm really excited to have you here, Mahyar.
For sure. Oh, thanks for having me on the show. Very excited to talk to you about my experiences in the space, what we know about Futurist this year. At the same time, all the murmurs and all the things we hear, we see the general trends of year to year as we run these major conferences. So I'm excited to talk about them and where I think it's going to go in 2024.
So good. So good. And when I was doing my research on the Futurist, it looked more like a concert slash show slash experience rather than I've been to hundreds of conferences, and I'd say 90% of them are kind of same old talk, same old speakers, same people in the circuit. And I'm not casting stones at that. There's value in that. But you guys seem to put quite a bit of show. So tell us a little about the Futurist Conference. We'll kind of start there.
Yeah, so Blockchain Futurist Conference, it is by far the largest in Canada, second largest in North America right now. We are a community-driven event first. We're not backed by some billion-dollar corporation or news agency. We build the conference from the ground up. We started in 2018. This would be our 5th edition. We had to take a little break during COVID because of Canadian rules. So 2021, we actually didn't have a conference, and it was the greatest year in crypto.
Things went crazy.
Things are crazy. But it's a testament to how great the actual event is and how many people can keep returning to the event and how we grow the event. Because even in the down markets, we've grown every year. So every year we've doubled our audience. And this year we're probably trending to have a 20% increase. But I think in a year like this, it's still a really great number to have. So Blockchain Futures Conference, like you said it, you hit on his head. It's not your typical conference. And we never wanted it to be that from the first day we have created this conference. We've been in the space for over 10 years. We've been running conferences since 2014. In 2013, we were running the original meetups in Toronto, Bitcoin meetups. Those grew to, it was weekly at a bar, about 15 people, then it grew to about 1,000 people a week.
Okay.
And we thought, hey, listen, I think there's something here. This one of our co-founders was deeply involved with the Ethereum Foundation. Prior to becoming Ethereum, there was on a project with Vitalik and Anthony Diorio prior to
Toronto's
Ethereum.
kind of where it
is where it began.
birthed.
Yeah, it's the home of Ethereum.
Yeah.
A lot of the early onset projects, Cosmos, Polymath, Aeon, they all started out of Toronto. So what
Okay.
people don't understand about Canada in particular, not even just Toronto, is that we have a huge outsized crypto community due to the GDP or the population of Canada.
Sure.
So whenever you go around the world, you go to conferences, or you go on any of these teams, any of the major teams like companies, exchanges, all in the blockchain space, everyone you talk to is always like, hey, I have a Canadian guy on my team. We have someone in Toronto. Why is that? It's because so much of the blockchain movement started out of Canada.
Got it.
But unfortunately, we never got branded as that. So we're trying to make that happen now and try to bring that light back to Canada and make us an innovation leader that we've always been,
Let's
and for
go.
people to understand that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we've been in it for 10 years. We did the first Bitcoin Expo in Canada in 2014. It was 800 people at the time. It was the largest in the world. And then we did the first Ethereum event in the world, to where we launched Ethereum. And then we decided, hey, listen, we love this community, we love this technology. Let's take the gospel all around the world. We did events in the Bahamas. We did a lot of firsts, like a loyalty and blockchain conference. We did a securities token conference, the first one in the world. We did conferences in Hong Kong, Australia, New York City, and we thought, hey, in 2018, why doesn't Canada have a national conference? We have all these people that are working on blockchain. They love this industry. We need a real conference to get together, and that's when we came up with the idea that we wanted to have a festival and a conference in one. We noticed that a lot of these conferences we go to, as you said, they have the same format. You're at a convention center, you're at a hotel, and you have your booths and your talks and all of that. But no one was living the technology. No one was ever living the technology. In 2018, we had everything on site was cryptified. And that's 2018. And 2018 was actually
Okay.
hard to do. Like we had ticketing in crypto. We had crypto marketplaces that all accepted crypto at that time. Our food trucks accepted crypto at the time. We have crypto helicopter rides.
Cool.
Did everything you could. And in 2018, we actually went to local farms in Ontario and we tracked all the food on a blockchain into right from farm to table at the conference. So we
No
were
doubt. Very cool.
our mandate was always to bring the technology in every way and live it on site, right? And now we do it even bigger than ever, and we do that still. We have that same ethos. We don't host it in a convention center, and we host it in a mega entertainment complex. And the reason why we do that is because it has a $50 million sound and audio stage. There's no stage in the world like it. I mean, there's some amazing stages in concert venues, but there's no stage in the crypto conference world like it. We do a professional produced show when you're on stage. You feel like a rock star. We immersively brand the entire stage in your branding when you're on stage. There's 3 jumbo screens. It's like an experience you have to visualize, to see. Outside of that, it's the craziest venue. It's right on the waterfront, overlooking the city. It's got a Miami style cabana pool bar that hosts 5,000 people directly to it.
Hmm.
And all of the fun aside, we designed the actual conference to encourage networking and deal making on site. So a lot of our customers are projects that are trying to get their name out, trying to meet investors, trying to find downloads and users. And one of the ways we've been extremely successful with this is we launched our own token. It's called UNI, and we gamify all real life experiences. And why we do this, and we've been doing this for 5 years now, is through our web app and our token. We were able to pretty much get attendees to do all these actions on site that our sponsors would like to
Okay.
create ROI for them. So
Hmm.
anything from going to their speaking sessions, learning about their company, scavenger hunts around the actual conference itself. They earn these UNI tokens, and then they can redeem these UNI tokens for like food, front row seats to Vitalik speaking, helicopter rides. It just becomes an
So
immersive
cool.
experience when you're on site.
Good
So
for you.
that's really Futurist in a handbasket, but there's some really cool innovations this year that we're adding to it. One of the things that you can't deny in this space is the developer community is the heartbeat of blockchain, right? So one of the things we've done last year is we partnered with ETH Denver and Crypto Chicks, and we started ETHToronto Hackathon, because Toronto, as being the home of Ethereum, didn't actually have an ETH series. So we thought, who else better than us to do it? We've done hackathons all over the world. We did the first ever ETH Waterloo, where Crypto Kitties came out of. So we thought, hey, let's bring a hackathon back to Toronto. Last year was a huge success. We had over 500 developers and married with the Blockchain Futures Conference. This year, we're expanding it. We've already accepted over 1,000 developers to hack. But at the same time, we are introducing ETHWomen. So ETHWomen is a big mandate for us this year, where we are going to really try to bring more females into the space. We already know from our demographics of the conference, 36% of our attendees are female. And that's by far the largest in the space. And I can tell you that. I've been to every event and I've been all over the world. And there is no other that has a bigger female presence. And that's because it's a testament to our team being female-led. We're probably the only female-led conference, but a large conference producer in the space. We have over 80 community partners we partner with every year, and even more. We target female groups to be able to bring them into this world, into the Web3 world, and we make it a great space and not so technical in a way that they feel like they can't learn about this. So we try to find a way to introduce the technology to all facets of life, so everyone feels comfortable to come on site and learn about it as well.
So cool.
So these are the two new big innovations this year. So we're bringing a lot more developer focus. We have the conference itself. We have one of the best venues in the space and the festivals in the space as well.
So cool. And to start thinking that in 2018 and a few years before that, you're already doing stuff. It wasn't the Futurist conference, but you were already doing stuff at events. That would have taken a little bit of what did you see in crypto, DeFi, blockchain that made you invest the time, energy, and kind of put your chips on the front line for saying this is happening? Because not many people, I mean, there's some people that were talking about it, but most people were on the sidelines waiting, and you were in there.
Yeah. I wasn't there. It's interesting because you can't change the past, right? But one of the interesting thing was, prior to being all in crypto, I was actually a banker. I was an executive at TD Bank and HSBC, and it's actually hard because I was so involved and I was helping this community. I remember going to the meetings and learning about Bitcoin the first time, and the light bulb going off and saying like, "Oh my God, like this technology is going to change the world." But my day-to-day life, I would go back to work and no one at my work would understand it. Everything in the news, what it was about the Silk Road, it was about this illegal gambling and money laundering. And I work in a highly regulated industry. I work in credit, which is even more regulated than anything. And I remember sitting there and I had this feeling of like, okay, this is a movement. It's not just the technology, because I'd never seen such obsession with the people that I would talk to, and everyone would try to essentially teach you why this is going to change the world. And at that time, it was a lot of anarchists, a lot of banking the unbanked, and it wasn't as rigorous and as an industry as it is today, right? So for me, what got me into the whole space was, I actually remember I had a funny moment. Was I was sitting, I was at work, and I remember the CEO of the company I was working for, of our division, he asked me, he said, "Hey, there's a lot of this crypto stuff happening on our credit cards. We need you to run a project to pretty much cancel any payments coming from exchanges onto credit cards in Canada." And I just went back to my desk and I sat there and I said to myself, like, this is wrong. I believe in this. I trade. I know this is what this is. I'm not doing anything illegal. Why would I want to do this? I actually went home. I talked to my white girlfriend at the time, and the next day I walked into this office and I quit my job. I quit my job and said, I'm not going to do this because it's not what I believe in. And I actually really believe in Bitcoin, and I believe in this cryptocurrency technology, and I'm going to chase that. And I walked out of an executive job, and I found myself in crypto, and I never looked back. So, yeah, it's one of those things where you realize, what's your ethos, and will you stick to your guns when it comes down to it.
So good, so good. I love hearing people that are in it and really bet big on it. They have somewhat of some story of like, and that was my moment. I mean, most people doing things do. So that's brilliant, from the contrast of like banker regulated and then needing to block people's crypto payments to making the decision. I mean, when you look backwards, all the dots connect. So it makes total sense when you look back. At the moment,
Yeah.
though, you must have been like, "What the f am I doing?" But
Yeah,
looks like it
and
worked out pretty well for you.
even years into it, it's like what was I doing or how was I doing it? I mean, it's always scary to make that jump, but I just felt it. Like if you ever went to those
Yeah,
meetups in 2014, 2013, you just knew something what exciting was about this. There's nobody was excited about credit cards. Nobody ever is till
yeah,
to this day, but people were excited about this. What could happen here? This is a transformative thing. Like the aura and the mystery of Satoshi Nakamoto alone gets
totally.
so many people back into this whole thing, right? But yeah,
100%.
it's been really interesting seeing the growth. One of the cool things about being a community builder, that's what we are first and foremost, is that you really hear the conversations and the trends that are happening going forward. It used to be about the first thing was about payments. Like payments is going to be sexy, but then it kind of fell off. But now a lot of people are solving payments again this year. Then it was about tracking and immutability and it was about supply chains, lots of supply chain stuff.
Yep,
Again, it was sexy, wasn't sexy. Then you had the NFT craze, and the
yep,
NFT craze, like we're not talking about the NFT craze that happened over COVID, where the Bored Apes showed up and people were getting into the metaverse and all that. We're talking prior to that. We're talking about when the ERC standard came out for NFTs, and people were like, "What can we do with this? What think of all the licensing deals we can do with this, right?" And
yep.
the idea that creators can own and earn royalties on their actual creation. It was something that was like exciting to me. And then one of our first hackathons we ever did in 2017, the winner of the hackathon was CryptoKitties, which became Dapper Labs, which was really
Okay.
the first ever successful NFT, right? And being there and seeing that. And then in 2020, we ran a virtual conference. And the funny thing about the 2020 conference was we had guys from the CEO of Sandbox come and speak about the metaverse. And we had Decentraland as one of our sponsors, and no one was kind of giving them the time of day. And then in that following year, metaverses became all the rage. And where is this going? And the whole new arena that we're going to play in. And so I think in 2022, it was interesting because we were coming off of DeFi summer. I think the biggest opportunity and the biggest growth in the whole space till right now, and I think it's going to be for a long time, is DeFi. DeFi, it's had its progression, it's had its maturity it needs to do, but there is no other industry in the world that needs to get disrupted than
Mm-hmm.
traditional finance.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional finance is archaic. It is a old boys club, and it's ready for disruption. And there's some really great projects and really great people working on it right now. I think a lot of this, like all immature industries, you're going to have your scams early, you're going to have people get rugs and people are going to get burned. But over time, and what we're seeing this year at Futurist is that the companies that are sponsoring are real companies. They're
So good.
revenue generating, regulated, they're businesses with thousands of employees. Maybe there's centralized exchanges, maybe it's in the DeFi movement, but they're real, and we don't have the crazy ICO days. We don't have the NFT drop buy my pixel for $100,000 days anymore. These are companies who are either vested with venture capital, or they've raised money through their own form, or they've built massive communities that are pushing these projects forward. So it's really exciting to see that. I mean, there was so many turnover in our industry from, let's say, 2018's conference till now, but it's great to see especially the companies that were there in 2018 are still here in 2023, and how much they've gone bigger. And Canada has been really interesting this year because with all the regulation and all of the SEC stuff going on in the United States right now, like Canada's become hot again. So if you look at our sponsors this year, you're gonna see some really big names that never been in Canada before. And you're like, why are they coming to Canada? Because Canada is become a great place because the regulations right now are very forward. People can understand, they're not in limbo, they can understand what we're working with the government's kind of telling them what to do, and people like stability, right? Companies like stability. Coinbase has all their problems in the United States right now with the SEC because there's no stability with the SEC and what they're saying, right? The Ripple stuff is going on for years
Yep.
now, right? So Canada, though, is the doorway to North America for a lot of companies. And we have a really, really big opportunity right now to capture that and open our doors to these innovative companies. Because if we don't, they're going to go to Asia. They're already
Yep.
going to Asia. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
do we want to be a leader in this, or do we want to be a follower in it? And I want to personally make sure that Canada is on the forefront of this technology.
So good. I've been meeting more and more Canadians who are in the crypto space, and it always sort of amazes me because we're Canadians. I'm Canadian too. I feel like we could talk politics and government without hating each other. When I talk to the US is a little more divided. But anyways, I was like, I got really into crypto and started understanding as a protection of wealth when the truckers convoy was happening, and I sent them some money because I wanted them to have something nice and warm. And I was like, go, go. I used to work on the oil rigs, so I know that industry well. And then I remember being threatened with my bank account, both personal and corporate, being shut down. And I started moving assets onto the blockchain. And that's when I kind of started putting two together of like, um, like I really went down the deep rabbit hole of what
Mhm.
could be the future for true DeFi. And I don't think crypto has figured that out yet because again, most of the
No.
projects were sort of these kind of not, I don't know. I'm not huge fan of it. So it excites me that you're saying there's a lot of development and a lot more
Mhm.
emphasis. Sort of the narrative is around DeFi this year because I think that ultimately, I mean, what have banks come up with? An ATM and a bank card. That's about it. Like that's their biggest innovation.
Right.
And it's not even that, and a Visa. So they can charge you
Yeah.
20% credit. So that excites me.
Or they trap you for 30 years and you pay double for an asset that you bought over
Right.
time. So there's a lot of there's a lot of different things that you can talk about the banking system. Like, I mean, there's so much ripe for disruption and it,
Big time.
and the power is in the decentralization. The power is in the communities working together. When you realize you don't need the centralized
Yep.
banking authority to hold your money and then lend out 9 to
Yep.
1 of that money.
Yep.
And then at any point, like you said, in your experience, they just freeze your bank account. They can
Yep.
freeze your bank account. And then what do you do in that instance? Like,
Yeah.
where do you go? How do you live your life?
Yeah. Yeah. So that really excites me that that's actually sort of the narrative for it. Um, and a bigger focus on it because I do think that is the problem that needs to be solved, and no one's really solving it except for communities in the crypto DeFi space. So that was my follow up question, or that was my next question: is with your ear to the sort of all the speakers and sponsors, and um, really, I think what I'm asking for, or what I'm poking away here at, is a little bit of what do people not know? And you sort of have that front row seat to knowing the innovation. So you're saying DeFi and much more
Yeah.
DeFi emphasis this year.
Yeah, I think DeFi for sure. I also think, the rails to traditional finance are stronger than ever. I think that a lot of people thought DeFi summer happened and now it's dying off. It's not dying off. I think there's more innovation in it. I think the bad actors, the FTXs of the world, put the industry back, but the momentum and the inertia of the industry is moving forward at such a rapid pace. You got to always remember, I think, you and I, to an extent, are lucky to be in Canada. We have this environment of, safe laws, and we can, respectively depend on the government being, capable, and there's some value to our money, and it's probably not going to lose, 80,000% in 1 year. But there's so many countries in the world that don't have that
Yeah.
stability. And when
Yeah.
I go around the world, and I've been around the world and talk to people, they need crypto and Bitcoin and DeFi more than us.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where the next billion users of blockchain and the hyper growth is coming from. It's not going to come from North America.
Got it.
North America is going to be great. There will be some innovations out of it, but the hyper growth is going to be the Central American countries, the South American countries. Asia is rapidly working on many different things. It's a whole different beast there. And then you got Africa, right?
Yep.
Africa is every day growing in the blockchain space.
Yep.
And you just when you're in those countries, like I went to Indonesia 2 years ago, right before COVID. I was in Indonesia working with consulting a company there that was looking to get into the blockchain space. And I was in an awe of how fast they're moving, and how the regulations there allow for more innovation than here. And it got me thinking, like, how are we going to keep up to this? Because we can't. The population there is, I don't know, quadruple, and at the same time, they have no roadblocks. We got a ton of roadblocks. So how do we keep compete in 30 years from now? And it's interesting to see that. So if anybody ever wants to make the case of, oh, Bitcoin was 60,000, now it's 30,000, you're going to say the same thing. I was there when it was 4,000. I was there when it was $400. And we always said the same thing. We're going to say the same thing at 100,000. We're going to say the same thing at $1 million. And Bitcoin is the easy one to talk about because Bitcoin, has its use case, has its largest community, tons of institutional money. The fact that you have a BlackRock talking about doing an ETF, it's like I couldn't imagine that day in 2014 when we're sitting in these bars having a beer and thinking, oh, so who's Satoshi Nakamoto? Now we have the largest fund in the world trying to get into this space. It's crazy to think of it that way.
You mentioned a really good thing, and maybe you could expand a little bit on it, because I think people don't understand. And I talked to someone who helped me see this maybe 2 years ago. Is when I started looking at crypto, I was like, okay, protection of wealth, and a little bit more custody of my wealth, but also how do you make money? And he's like, typical for a North American or someone living here to be like them, but for 90% of the world, it is not a matter of how do we make money. It's a matter of like survival. If we want to get really extreme, is how can we use this to I mean, the unbanked, like in Africa, like it's just, it's crazy. Like people don't have a bank account. People can't. It's crazy, and we don't think about it. So I think you're absolutely right. Is that's where a lot of the adoption will come from, because it's a necessity, not a how do I trade a few sats around and make a little bit of profit and scrape some and create a bot to trade for me.
Exactly. And it's understanding we are about to hit a tsunami of value. Like everything in your life can go on chain, and everything of value, your assets that were so hard to trade, and it will be secondary markets for every asset you own, right? Everyone's trying to tackle the real estate thing. We've had so many companies do it so far. It's, there's so many hands in your pocket in the real estate industry that it's going to happen, but there's so many different assets and so many things that are assets and value, like your time, your videos, your creation, your photos, like things that you might not have thought had value, but now have markets. They never had markets before. Like you're just sitting at home and, you might be a great nature photographer, an amateur one, but guess what? You can now NFT that. You can sell it to someone. You can sell portions of it to someone. You know what I mean? And there's a community there for that, right? So this technology touches every industry in the world. And obviously with the emerging piece that we're seeing, especially in our conference this year. So another one that's obviously going to be huge, it's the biggest buzz, is AI. And then it's AI. How does AI work within the blockchain ecosystem? And I would say the third thing that we're seeing, and it had a hot minute over the last few years, was the Web3 gaming. But the Web3 gaming is really coming to fruition now. You're seeing some of the largest producers, Activision and things like that, who are going to start getting into that space, right? And then, what are these new economic models that come out of this, right? Like the gaming world is one of the largest industries in the world, and it's cash cow, if you will. But there's even ways that we can decentralize that, and me and you can now benefit from being a gamer than ever before. So I would say DeFi, AI, gaming, they're all really big this year. And then what's the number one thing I would say that we're seeing is staking, liquid staking. Liquid staking is, it's called liquid staking summer this year, right? And so it is basically with Ethereum going to ETH2, we're just seeing an explosion in the staking business. Some of the largest miners, like one of our sponsors, Foundry, one of the largest miners in the world, it has a huge now staking arm. So they are coming to the conference. They're sponsoring the conference because their big staking products is what they want to talk about. It's one of the cool companies that I really am very fond of. It's called Ampera. So Ampera, they basically are collateralizing and making DeFi work. Their first use case was payments, but now I think we need to understand collateralization, especially if you're flowing payments and money. You need something to collateralize these payments. So those are kind of companies that I'm really looking at. Some of the largest L2s like Ava Labs. So many different of these companies are EVM compatible and now are going to be working within that ecosystem. As much as there's always been Ethereum killers. To be honest with you, no community is like the Ethereum community. I might have a bias because I was there from the beginning with them, and also I've seen that community grow from the ground up. But the way that community has built, and with all the new innovations and the upgrades that they actually pulled off, where most people said nobody can pull these off, really puts them in a position to be the foundation blockchain layer of the internet, of the world. So everything will roll up to Ethereum at one point. So I like I always say, like everyone, it's cliche, the two safest bets are Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's a reason for that. No one's just saying that because everything else below that is risky in a way, right? So
yeah, so good. Thanks for being, I was just thinking as you were talking, thanks for being, I think there's very few people who are I'm going to choose my words wisely here, who are, I don't know, and I didn't know you before this, and I really just personally haven't followed all the content. I'm really looking forward. Me and Shannon were like, yeah, we're gonna be there in August here, and if anyone's coming, do let me know. We can link up. But just I don't know, I'm a shining light. That's so cliche, but it's just like bringing a non-hyped mm, belief, or like, I know bear markets are difficult because I've been in bear markets in different industries, or when the business, like maybe if you run companies, it's like you have your lean, the P&Ls are red for 6 months, and it's so hard to keep the vision alive for the product or what you want to put out when no one else sees it. And it can be difficult. And I've been through a lot of those kind of seasons where it was just some faith and some belief in something way deeper than just the money that kept you in it. And I've seen a lot of really awesome people get into crypto in 2022, and they're no longer in it because, well, they lost some money and they have no belief in it anymore. And I think there's few people who are keeping it alive. So really excited for what you guys are doing, and just thank you for putting stuff on and sharing real stuff. Ooh,
so
there we go.
Communities have really grown, and you got to think the COVID period brought millions of new people into the space. The NFT movement brought millions of people from different disciplines into the space that maybe we would have gotten in this round. You know what I mean? So I would say that's one area that's really dropped off. I think it's not because of what NFTs are; it's because of the first iterations of the explosion of NFTs. Might not be the best use case for those. You know what I mean? We're going to see NFTs in everyday life. Like, we still documentation and lawyers and wills and titles. Like those are all going to be NFT'd, right? So I think the NFT is going to be past its junior phase, and kind of get out of that adolescence and start seeing that technology. The hype and the chasing of the money is gone. But now this is where you see the cool stuff that's going to come out, right? This is the time. If we saw the last bear market in 2017 and then went to 2018, think about all of the companies that were in the top 100 then, that aren't even in the top 100 or anymore, but the ones that replace them are really moving the industry forward.
So good. We were talking to Assure DeFi, who they're a company that's building awesome stuff, and he's like, a year in crypto is like a decade in traditional finance. Like, things just move so fast, and we're seeing a lot of that. So just your guys' consistency, and every year it seems like there's a new narrative. And I'm really excited for DeFi. Have been forever, and I've never been since I was a kid, because my dad grew up in a communist country where they took everything overnight. And every time we were in the bank, he just despised banks. He held cash, all that. So I think some of that was in me. Every time I was in a bank, I was like, I
Yeah.
just don't like it here. Um, and when
Yeah.
I had no money, I couldn't get a loan or any kind of money. When I worked on oil rigs, I had multiple six figures in cash. Someone always came out to sell me some product, to sell me something. I was like, oh, now you guys want me, of course.
Yeah. So of course.
Um, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for what you guys are doing. To wrap things up, if people want to find a little bit more, and we'll have all the links below,
Yeah.
your guys' team or you sent over all the links. But if people want to find out more about what y'all are doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we love anybody who can support Canada's biggest conference called Blockchain Futurist Conference. It's August 15th and 16th in Toronto. It's held at Rebel and Cabana. That's the venue. We got 2 days of great content, really exciting stuff that we talked about. It's a real immersive experience. It's worth the ticket price. We keep our ticket prices very low compared to any other major conference in North America or globally. And we do that because we want to make sure that if you have to come to this conference, we'll find a way for you to come to this conference. So we want you to learn. We want this space to grow. As it grows, we all win. So we stick to that core mandate of growing this community. The other two things you can look up is if you're a developer in the space, we have a great developer series called ETHToronto and ETHWomen. Make sure you apply. It's free to apply. You get to participate. There's over hundreds of thousands of dollars in bounties that we're going to be giving away. Just got to come to the conference, sign up. It's a hybrid method, so it's going to be online prior to 1 month and 1 month after, but on site during Futurist. And then on top of that, we're running Canada Crypto Week. So this is the biggest week in crypto in our country. We have over 40 different events that will be happening across the country. A lot of them physically will be tailored in Toronto, obviously, because Futurist is the anchor of the week. So if you have an event, you have a meetup you want to run, you have some sort of investor meetings or something you want to do, go to CanadaCryptoWeek.com and please submit your event. We'll make sure to promote it. We have some really amazing communities doing some really cool stuff this year, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing you guys there.
So good. And me and Shannon will be there. So for anyone watching this who's in our community, do let me know in a comment, or you know where to find me on the internet. Shoot me a message
Yeah.
if you are coming. I'd love to link up for a day or two before. With that said, really appreciate your time, and all the links for your guys' stuff is going to be below.
Thank you so much. Really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
brother.
See you in Toronto in August.
Absolutely. Thank you.